Hello, welcome to Unbelievable Tales.
Who shows up at a millionaire's private dinner with a letter and three identical faces. Noah Harris thought the past was long behind him until three 6-year-old boys walked up to his table, handed him an envelope from their late mother, and said, "She told us you're our dad." What followed wasn't a quiet reunion. It was the unraveling of secrets, mischances, and a journey towards something he never thought he deserved, a family. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. Noah Harris didn't do surprises. His world ran on efficiency, clean schedules, predictable outcomes. He owned the restaurant he sat in that evening, a sleek rooftop establishment with dim lighting, panoramic views, and enough privacy that even the tabloids didn't know he was there. It was supposed to be a dinner alone, a rare pause between closing a merger in Chicago and flying back to New York at dawn. The server had just set down his steak when he noticed them. Three small figures walking with purpose across the room. Matching navy coats, matching curls, matching serious expressions that didn't belong on boys their age. They stopped in front of his table and stared up at him like they'd rehearsed this moment. One of them, slightly taller, stepped forward and placed a cream-colored envelope next to his glass of wine. "She told us you'd be here," the boy said calmly. Noah blinked, unsure whether to laugh or call security. "Who did?" "Our mom," said another, his voice higher. "Before she went to heaven." The third didn't speak, just watched him too closely, as if comparing him to a picture in a storybook. "We were told not to open it," the first boy added. "Only you." Noah stared at the envelope. His name was written on it in handwriting he hadn't seen in nearly 7 years. Noah. Just that. No title. No last name. His hand shook slightly as he picked it up. He looked around, no sign of a guardian, no adult waiting in the wings. The boys stood patiently as if time meant nothing to them. Slowly, deliberately, he opened the letter. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. And before you throw this away, just know I wasn't trying to ruin your life. I was trying to give them a chance. Noah, these are your sons. I never told you. I was scared. And selfish. But mostly scared. Please don't let my silence be the end of their story. Claire." Noah's world collapsed in one silent breath. Claire. The only woman who had ever seen past his walls. The one he'd walked away from when their lives became too incompatible. She hadn't chased him. He hadn't looked back. He thought she'd moved on, maybe married someone else, maybe started over. But she had started over, alone. He looked at the boys again. 3 sets of hazel eyes. 3 identical dimples. And one familiar intensity, his own, mirrored right back at him. Where's Claire now?" he asked, voice thinner than he expected. "She died 2 weeks ago," the middle one said, matter of fact. "We were staying with Ms. Darlene. But she said you were next." "Next for what?" "Next to know." His appetite vanished. The steak sat untouched, the wine forgotten. Somewhere in his chest, a dozen walls cracked open at once. I didn't know," he said, mostly to himself. The third boy finally spoke. "She said you used to love her." Noah closed his eyes. The weight of regret pressed down like gravity had doubled. "Come with me," he said, rising to his feet. "Where's your caretaker?" "Outside," one of them answered. "She's waiting in the car. Said we should be brave." He left a thick wad of cash on the table, grabbed his coat, and followed them through the restaurant, oblivious to the stairs. Outside, in the alley beside the valet station, an older woman stepped out of a parked SUV. Her coat was patched, her face lined, but her eyes were alert. "Mr. Harris," she greeted with a short nod. "I assume they reached you? Who are you?" "Darlene. I was Claire's neighbor. Been watching the boys since. And this." He held up the letter. "She wrote that the week she got her diagnosis. Never told me what was in it, only that it was for you. I didn't even know she'd tracked you down. She never said a bad word about you, Mr. Harris. Not once." Noah stood still, cold wind swirling around him as the world recalibrated. "I need time," he said. "They've already had enough time without you," Darlene replied gently. "But I understand. They're staying with me tonight. Here's the address." She handed him a folded paper. He stared at it like it was a bomb. The boys climbed into the back seat again. The one who'd first spoken turned to look at him through the window. "Bye, Dad," he said softly. Not with hope. Not with resentment. Just a quiet acceptance that tore through Noah's ribcage. The car pulled away. Noah didn't move for a long time. Not when the valet asked if he needed his car. Not when his phone buzzed with a reminder for his next meeting. Not until the last echo of tires faded into the dark. Only then did he whisper the one word he hadn't used in years. Claire. And then he walked. Not home. Not to the office. Just into the night. He didn't sleep that night. Noah sat in his high-rise apartment, lights off, jacket still on, staring through the glass wall that overlooked a city pulsing with life he couldn't feel. The letter lay on the coffee table beside his untouched phone. Every time he looked at it, he heard Claire's voice, not the written one, the real one, the one he'd spent years trying to forget without ever quite managing. How could she have gone through all that alone? He tried to rationalize it. Tried to remind himself that Claire had made a choice not to tell him. That maybe she'd feared how he'd react. That maybe she hadn't wanted him involved. But none of that made the ache in his chest loosen. Because the truth underneath it all was worse, she hadn't trusted him. And she'd been right. He stood at dawn, pulled on a fresh shirt, and canceled his flight. His assistant texted 3 times before realizing he wasn't going to explain himself. He got into his car and drove without breakfast, without coffee, without a plan, just the crumpled paper in his pocket guiding him to a part of town he'd never bothered to know. Darlene's building was plain brick, aging and quiet, with chipped flower pots outside the stairwell and bikes leaned against a rusted railing. He climbed the steps slowly, almost afraid of being seen, as if the moment he rang the bell, the entire world would change again. She answered in slippers, her robe half-tied, but her eyes were sharp. "They're still sleeping," she said. I didn't want them to think I disappeared." "They didn't," she said, stepping aside. "But they were quiet this morning. You made a bigger impression than you think." The apartment smelled like pancakes and crayons. There were drawings taped to the wall, a clock that ticked loudly in the silence, and a low hum of cartoons playing in the next room. He hesitated near the hallway. "May I?" "They're yours, Mr. Harris. You don't need my permission." He didn't expect the sharp pain that came with those words. "Yours." He moved softly down the hall. The first bedroom was dim, the curtain cracked open just enough to spill light across 3 small beds. In one, a boy was curled on his side, hugging a stuffed bear with one ear. In another, the quiet one lay sprawled out, arm flung over his eyes. And in the third, the watchful boy, the one who hadn't said much, sat awake, legs crossed, staring straight at the door. "You came back," he said. "I did." Noah stepped in. "Can I sit?" A nod. He lowered himself to the edge of the bed. "What's your name?" "Liam," the boy said. "That's Micah." He pointed to the cuddler. "And that's Ezra. He talks in his sleep." Noah smiled a little. "I used to do that too." "You still do?" "I'm not sure. No one's been around to tell me." Silence stretched between them. Liam tilted his head. "Are you going to take us?" The question stunned him. "Take you? To your place? That's how it works, right?" Noah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know how it works. But I'm not here to take you anywhere. I wanted to see you. To meet you. We already met. Properly, I mean." Liam studied him again, the way Claire used to when she didn't believe his charm and wanted the truth instead. "Mom said you had a fast car," he said after a while. "She said that, huh? And that you made your own money. That you built things. But you didn't like questions." Noah swallowed. "She was right. She said you loved her once. But not enough to stay. That one hit harder than anything else." "She was right about that too." Liam nodded slowly. "She still said you were a good man." He looked down. "I don't know if that's true." The boy's small hand touched his. "It's okay. We're still deciding." Noah didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just let the moment wrap itself around him like thread, fragile and warm and real. Later, over breakfast, the other 2 woke and joined them. Micah was chatty. Ezra shy. Liam didn't talk much, but he watched everything. They asked about his job, if he had a dog, if his car had buttons, and why his hair was funny for a dad. He laughed more than he'd laughed in months, maybe years. Darlene served them all cereal and eggs, and for a while it was just a normal morning, except nothing about it was normal. On his way out, she stopped him at the door. "They need answers eventually," she said. "Claire made her choices. But now it's on you." "I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted. "No parent is," she replied. "But you've got 3 boys who already memorized your face. That's something." He drove away with their voices in his head. By midday, he was back in his office, or tried to be. The view from the 52nd floor that usually made him feel in control now felt empty. He stared at spreadsheets and graphs until the lines blurred, until the numbers meant nothing. He pulled open his desk drawer, found the old photo of Claire they'd once taken on a spontaneous trip to the coast, her hair blown across her face, her laugh caught mid-motion. He hadn't looked at it in years. Hadn't been able to. He closed the drawer. Called his lawyer. I need information, he said. About guardianship. About paternity. About everything. There was a pause. Is this about the boys that showed up at the restaurant? Noah sat up straight. How do you know about that? Someone leaked a photo? It's already circulating. A few gossip blogs. Not front page yet. He felt nausea rise in his throat. Make it stop. I'll try. But once it's out, I said stop it. He hung up. The panic wasn't for himself. It was for them. The thought of cameras outside that little apartment made his skin crawl. He dialed Darlene next. You need to keep them inside. Away from windows. Don't answer the door unless it's me. What happened? People might start asking questions. Just trust me. You better come explain this yourself, she said. They're asking where you went. He was already grabbing his keys. By the time he reached the building, there were no reporters yet. But a black car was parked down the street, windows too dark to be casual. He walked faster. Took the stairs 2 at a time. When Darlene opened the door, she didn't look surprised to see him. They're in the kitchen. Micah wants to show you his drawing. Noah passed the hallway, the boys' drawings still on the wall, one of them now with a new stick figure beside the others, labeled Noah. No title. Just his name. He stepped into the kitchen. Micah beamed. I drew us on a rocket ship. Looks fast, Noah said, swallowing hard. It is. Liam says we can go to space when we're older. Noah knelt beside him. Liam's right. You can go wherever you want. Micah leaned in. Only if you come too. And Noah realized. He already had. That night he stayed longer. Not because Darlene asked him to. Not because the boys begged, though Micah's hopeful stare was hard to resist, but because something in his chest tightened every time he imagined walking away again. So he didn't. He sat on the worn couch in Darlene's living room, Liam curled up beside him with a dinosaur book, Ezra lying across the carpet drawing in silence. Micah had fallen asleep first, his head against Noah's arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. Noah barely moved, afraid to disturb the fragile peace. At some point, Darlene brought him tea and lowered the lights. She didn't ask questions. Didn't push. She just watched him watching them, the way someone watches a man try to breathe for the first time in years. Later, after they were tucked into their beds, she handed him a sealed envelope. She wrote this for you too. I wasn't sure when to give it. Maybe now's the time. He took it without speaking. Back in his car, parked under a flickering street lamp, he unfolded the second letter. The handwriting was less neat this time. Rushed, maybe written during a harder day. But the words still carried Claire's voice. Warm and firm and unafraid. Underscore if you've met them by now. I can only hope you've stayed long enough to look, really look and see yourself in them. Liam is quiet like you. He observes everything. Micah is all heart. Always first to speak. Even when it scares him. Ezra is steady. Stronger than he knows. They're pieces of you, Noah. Not because of DNA. But because you were the first home I ever knew, even if you didn't stay long. I never hated you for leaving. I hated myself for not being enough to make you stay. But over time I realized it wasn't about enough. It was about timing. About fear. About a life we weren't ready to hold yet. Don't try to fix the past. Just don't miss the future. They need you. Even if they don't know how to say it yet. Underscore. Noah didn't cry. Not exactly. But his grip on the letter trembled. And when he looked up, he saw his own reflection in the windshield, unfamiliar, unguarded. He didn't sleep in his penthouse that night. He drove back to the office just to shut it down for the week, handed off his schedule to an assistant who looked like he'd seen a ghost, and then called Darlene at dawn. Can I take them today? He asked. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. You're sure? No, he admitted. But I want to be. They met at a park outside the city. A private one, closed off, secured by one of his company's retreat properties. No press. No noise. Just trees and grass and the sound of sneakers against gravel. The boys ran ahead while Noah followed slowly, hands in his coat pockets, every step feeling like a commitment he hadn't made in years. He watched them race toward the pond, laughing and yelling about ducks and sticks and who could throw farther. For a while, he stayed back. Then Liam walked toward him, held out a rock. It's ugly, he said, but it has lines in it. Noah crouched beside him. That's called quartz. See how it glitters in the cracks. You know a lot about boring stuff. He laughed. Comes with the job. Liam tilted his head. Can we have a job one day? You can have anything you want. What if I want to stay with you? Noah didn't answer right away. Instead, he took the rock, turned it over in his hand. Then I'd be lucky. They spent the afternoon chasing shadows and building stick forts. Noah brought sandwiches. They hated them. He forgot the juice boxes. They forgave him. By the end of the day, all three were asleep in the back seat of his car, smudged with dirt, fingers sticky from granola bars, cheeks flushed with the kind of exhaustion that only comes from joy. He didn't take them home right away. He drove for a while, slow and aimless, letting the silence settle. His phone buzzed only once, a message from Darlene, "You okay?" He replied, "I think I am." That evening, back at her apartment, as he lifted Ezra from the car and felt the boy instinctively curl into his chest, Noah realized something that chilled and comforted him all at once. He didn't want to return to his old life. Not the schedule. Not the silence. Not the solitude. But the world didn't wait for clarity. The next morning, the headlines hit. Triple surprise? CEO Noah Harris linked to mysterious children in viral photo. Boys in the boardroom? Exclusive footage of Harris at public park with lookalike kids. There were aerial shots, grainy footage, zoomed-in faces of children who hadn't consented to being noticed by the world. Noah's phone exploded. Calls from legal, PR, the board. Even his estranged brother sent a clipped message. Is it true? He ignored them all. Instead, he drove back to Darlene's with pastries and a stack of books. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised. Just tired. They've seen it, she said. They're too smart not to. Liam asked if he did something wrong. Noah's jaw clenched. They did nothing wrong. I should have protected them better. Then do it now. He knelt in front of Liam first. You're not in trouble, he said. And nothing about you is a secret to be ashamed of. I just didn't act fast enough. That's on me. Liam looked at him, eyes darker than usual. Are you gonna leave again? Noah shook his head. No. Not ever again. Ezra appeared beside them, holding the tablet where the article still glowed. They said we look like you. You do, Noah said softly. Especially when you're annoyed. Ezra cracked a smile. Micah climbed onto his lap. Does this mean we can't go outside anymore? Noah wrapped his arms around him. It means we'll be more careful. But I'm going to fix this. Not just the noise. All of it. Even the toast you burned? Micah whispered. He laughed. Especially that. Later that day, he held a press conference. Just one. No grand statements. No pure spin. He stepped up to the podium, took a breath, and said, I will not speak about the details of these children's lives. Not to satisfy curiosity. Not to control the story. What I will say is this, I care about them more than I've cared about anything in years. And my only priority now is making sure they are safe, loved, and left alone to grow without the weight of my past or my name on their shoulders. He left without taking questions. That night, Darlene watched him clean spilled juice off the counter with a dish rag and asked, What now? Noah looked toward the hallway where the boys were laughing over a board game. I don't know, he said. But I think this is where I start. He didn't expect her to show up. Noah had barely made it home from the press conference when the doorman called to say a woman was waiting in the lobby. He assumed it was another reporter, maybe someone with a bribe or a threat, until the elevator doors slid open and there she was. Claire's sister. He hadn't seen Lena in years. Not since that one dinner in Boston, before everything fell apart. She looked older now, sharper around the eyes, as if grief had sanded down whatever softness she once had. You didn't return my calls, she said flatly. I didn't know you called. I left 6 voicemails. Then I didn't listen. She didn't smile. Didn't even pretend to be civil. You really weren't going to reach out to me, were you? She said, stepping inside without an invitation. Just take the boys and rewrite history? I'm not taking anyone. Then what are you doing, Noah? He let the door close behind her, exhaling slowly. Trying not to fail them the way I failed her. Lena narrowed her eyes. You have a funny way of showing that. Going viral in under 48 hours. That wasn't me. That was a bystander with a camera. And now the whole world knows their faces. I'm trying to fix it. She studied him, the penthouse, the quiet, the wine glass on the table. Claire wanted them to have a normal life. Not this. Not headlines and mansions and strangers calling them lucky. They're not here. They will be, won't they? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lena crossed her arms. You didn't even know they existed until 5 minutes ago. You don't get to play savior now. I'm not. I'm just here. For how long? He looked away. She moved to the photo on the shelf. Claire, holding a surfboard, smiling like summer itself. You know what she told me the night you left? He didn't speak. She said, "He'll either become the man he's running from, or the one he's meant to be. And either way, I won't be there to watch it." Noah's breath caught. Lena placed the photo down gently. Prove her wrong. He did. But not for Lena. For them. That week, he moved into a townhouse across from Darlene's building. Humble, quiet, no staff. Just him and borrowed furniture and a second-hand rug that still smelled faintly like cinnamon. He painted one of the rooms sky blue and filled it with bunk beds, dinosaurs, and a glow-in-the-dark star ceiling he glued on himself at midnight. The boys visited the next day. Micah immediately asked if they could jump on the beds. Ezra opened every drawer and cabinet in silence, nodding like he was mentally approving it all. Liam didn't speak for 10 minutes, just stood at the window watching their old apartment across the street. "You don't have to stay," Noah told them softly. Micah frowned. "But we brought snacks." Ezra added, "And you have better Legos." Liam finally turned. "Are we going to live here now?" "Only if you want to." "What if we want both?" Noah crouched. "Then we'll figure it out." And they did, slowly, awkwardly, with mornings of mismatched socks and evenings full of spilled juice and lost toothbrushes. He learned that Ezra hated loud blenders. That Micah cried during thunderstorms but pretended not to. That Liam got stomach aches when he was anxious and liked to solve math problems backward. They never called him Dad. Not yet. But the way they looked at him changed, not with awe but with trust. Conditional. Earned. Fragile as sugar glass. And then came the fever. It was sudden. Violent. Ezra collapsed in the middle of building a cardboard fort, his forehead burning, his body limp. Noah panicked. Called Darlene. Called Lena. Called every doctor he knew. By the time they reached the ER, Ezra was barely conscious. Tests. Wires. Waiting. Noah never left his side. He sat through the night in a plastic chair, hands clenched, heart pounding, the boy's tiny form lost in sterile sheets. He kept hearing Claire's voice in that second letter, "Ezra is stronger than he knows." At 3:14 a.m., the doctor entered. "It's viral. Scary but not uncommon. He's dehydrated but responding. He'll be okay." Noah nearly collapsed. Later, when the nurse brought warm juice and cartoons, Ezra opened his eyes briefly. "Don't go," he murmured. "I won't. You promise." Noah touched his small, sweat-damp hand. "With everything I have." By morning, Micah and Liam arrived, sleepy-eyed and worried. Liam climbed silently onto the bed beside his brother and didn't move for a full hour. Micah asked if hospitals had waffles. When the nurse left, Noah exhaled for the first time in days. He took them home that night, all three of them, to the townhouse that still smelled like fresh paint and effort. Darlene came over to help. Lena brought soup she didn't admit she made. Claire's absence hung over everything, and yet so did her presence. In the way Ezra leaned into Noah's side. In the way Liam whispered "thank you" when no one else heard. In the way Micah drew their family on the kitchen chalkboard with 4 stick figures and 3 crooked hearts. That night, as they all fell asleep on the couch watching a terrible animated movie, Noah stayed awake just to listen to them breathe. Lena passed him a blanket. "They're yours now." He didn't respond. Just tucked the edge around Ezra's feet. "You're not who you used to be," she added. "I hope not. You're still scared. Every second." She smiled faintly. "Good. That means you're doing it right." And for the first time, he believed her. Spring arrived slowly that year. The kind of spring that felt earned, like the world had decided to start over after holding its breath all winter. Trees bloomed shyly along the sidewalks. Birds returned, noisy and determined. And in the townhouse on Maple Lane, life unfolded in quiet, beautiful chaos. Noah Harris no longer needed an alarm clock. At exactly 6:42 each morning, Micah would burst through his bedroom door carrying something sticky, a half-eaten banana, a crayon, a glitter-covered worksheet. Ezra was next, silently curling under the blankets and falling asleep again with his feet pressed against Noah's ribs. Liam came last, always checking to make sure his brothers had left the toothpaste cap on before joining them. He used to think mornings were for emails. Now they were for serial debates, mismatched socks, and tying 3 sets of shoelaces with one hand while holding a school permission slip in the other. Somewhere between lunch packing and story time, they had become a unit. A family. One Friday evening, they sat on the floor building a city out of pillows and shoeboxes. Ezra named the tallest one Harris Tower. Micah insisted it needed a rocket launch pad. Liam added a library. "You should stay here forever," Micah said, casually, handing Noah a plastic giraffe. This can be your office. Noah blinked, caught off guard. You want me to work from the Pillow City? Liam didn't look up. You already do, Ezra added. You haven't worn your real work shoes in forever. Noah smiled, but it twisted at the edges. They were right. He hadn't stepped into the corporate tower in weeks. His executives ran things smoothly, perhaps even better without him micromanaging. For the first time in his career, the silence of his absence hadn't resulted in chaos, and that terrified him. Because he wasn't sure anymore what made him matter. Except this. After the boys fell asleep, he stood on the back porch, watching the streetlights flicker through the trees. The air smelled like soil and lilacs. He heard footsteps behind him, then Lena's voice. They're asleep. He nodded. You're thinking of leaving again. No, he said. I'm thinking of never going back. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, Claire would have laughed. At me. At you giving up Harris Global to build Lego castles and pancake pyramids. I didn't give it up. I just let it breathe without me. She sat beside him on the step. So what now? I'm going to adopt them, he said. Legally. Fully. Not just as some guilt-soaked gesture, but because I want to. Because I already am their father in every way that matters. Lena didn't cry, but she squeezed his hand, and that said enough. The paperwork took time. Meetings with child services, home evaluations, psychological assessments. Noah faced every question about his past, his priorities, his intentions with quiet honesty. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He didn't try to spin his mistakes. He simply showed up. Again and again. And in the middle of it all, life continued. Ezra learned to ride a bike. Micah got in trouble for starting a glitter war in art class. Liam broke his glasses and refused to wear the spare pair because they made his face look weird. Noah went to every parent-teacher meeting, signed every lunch form, and stayed up late Googling how to make a fourth-grade solar system model without foam balls. One night, while tucking them into bed, Micah asked, if we get adopted, do we have to stop being us? Noah sat beside him, gently pulling the covers up to his chin. You'll always be you. Adoption just means I get to be part of that. Forever. Ezra whispered. Even when we're grown-ups? Especially then. Liam watched him with quiet eyes. Do you think Mom would be okay with this? Noah nodded, his voice tight. I think she would have chosen it. I think she's proud of all of you. And I think she'd remind me not to burn the toast. They laughed. Not loudly, but deeply. The day the court approved the adoption, Noah didn't throw a party. He didn't post a photo. He simply picked up the boys from school, took them to the park, and watched them run across the grass like nothing had changed, because to them it hadn't. Their world had already shifted long ago in ways no paperwork could define. That evening they sat around a homemade pizza, the crust too thick, the toppings uneven. Liam made them all wear party hats. Ezra insisted they each name their favorite moments since meeting Noah. Micah said the rocket fort. Ezra said the time you stayed at the hospital and didn't leave. Liam paused, then smiled. The first time you asked me what I needed before you told me what to do. Noah had to look away. Before bed, they presented him with a lopsided clay sculpture, 4 stick figures under a tree, the words etched across the base. Ours. Finally. Weeks passed. Then months. The headlines faded. The press lost interest. His name returned to business columns instead of gossip blogs. But Noah didn't return to his tower. He stayed here where burnt toast and bedtime stories replaced board meetings and spreadsheets. One Saturday, he and the boys planted a real tree in the backyard. Ezra dug the first hole. Micah picked a tiny blue flag to mark the spot. Liam labeled it the family tree. What kind of tree is it? Ezra asked. An oak, Noah said. It'll take a long time to grow. Micah frowned. Why not something fast? Because fast things break, Liam answered. But slow things last. Noah smiled. Later that night, after the boys were asleep, he sat on the back porch again, alone with the moonlight and the distant hum of a neighborhood settling in for the night. He wasn't waiting for anything. Not approval. Not redemption. Not applause. He had already found what mattered most. Not in what he'd built, but in what he'd stayed for.
Bye, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.